Today, our journey takes us to the Salton Sea, the Algodones dune area where Glamis is, and the Colorado River. Been to Salton Sea several times, but I have not been to Northshore or Bombay Beach. Now, in Northshore, there used to be a yacht club there that was actually recently renovated. People in the heyday of the Salton Sea area from like the 50s to the 70s would go there, and there's like a boat launch, and it had great saltwater fishing. There were boat races, and after the 70s, when all the agricultural runoff pretty much poisoned the lake, it's been on the steady decline since then. Now, Bombay Beach also was another one of these coastal resort towns on the sea, and it actually has some decent ruins. Art collectives have installed art pieces there, so I'm kind of curious to see that. So join me. Alright, so we just arrived at North Shore, and I have a landmark to show you guys that I think everybody will pretty much recognize. This is the location of where Trevor's hideout is in Grand Theft Auto 5. So Rockstar modeled it based off this location, and it's been abandoned for probably, I want to say, 10 years. It was probably like a convenience store before then. Over here there was actually a gas station, and as you can see, it's heavily graffitied, so yeah, it's been abandoned for quite a long time. I just want to walk around and kind of show this area and see what we see. It's actually not too bad down here today. It's actually around 90 degrees. It was, I looked at the weather and it was gonna be like around 100, but I think we got down here early enough, so it's not too terrible. But yeah, pretty dilapidated. Looks like it's been boarded up. Nothing really to see on the inside. You can kind of see like the old signage from when it was still open, and looks like maybe it was a grocery store or convenience store at one point. But it's seen better days. You can see the water down there. Now, the Salton Sea does kind of have a reputation for being stinky. You can kind of smell the salt and brine in the air, but it's not too bad today. This is actually kind of the remains of where the marina was for the yacht club, and you can see how low the water level is. There's like a bridge of land there where it used to be underwater so the boats could come in and out, but not anymore. And unfortunately, that's part of the ecological challenge that the Salton Sea is going to have for Southern California. As the lake dries up, it's going to expose more lake bed, and there will be basically alkali dust that gets kicked up in the air from either the wind or storms, because you get monsoon storms out here, and it will really diminish the air quality for the area. Like, not even just in the immediate area. Like, there are people that live out here that will be affected, but on the really bad days, the Salton Sea can be smelled all the way in Los Angeles, which is, like 2 hours away from here. So it's pretty bad. North Shore Beach and Yacht Club Community Center. I'm certainly glad that they actually turned the property into something useful for the people that live here, because it was abandoned for quite a while, and then they also kind of preserved some of the architectural styling. Looks like they put a playground in there too. You can kind of also see that on the other side of the building, there's a boat mast in the front. There's probably more architectural styling on the front side too, but it doesn't look like we can really access that today. Alright, so we're over here at the Salton Sea State Recreation Area now, and had to pay an entry fee to get in, but that's okay. And as you can see, this is actually where one of the larger beach areas of the sea was. And just to show you how much the water level has actually dropped, I'll go ahead and I'll hike down to the water line. Now, just 15 years ago, pretty much the water level was up to maybe like over here. Over time, it's certainly dropped quite a bit. And as I mentioned earlier, over time, as the water evaporates, especially because of climate change, pretty much the surface area of the sea will sink by about a quarter of its current size by about the 2030s. Actually, if you look over that way, you can kind of see the marks that the water level has left on the lake bed as it's receded. But it's just from the erosion over time. Actually, if you look over there, you can kind of see a jetty that kind of sticks out. Now, the last time I was here, this is probably about where the water level was, but it certainly receded further since then. Look at all that driftwood. There are actually some birds down here too, just enjoying themselves. Now, the sea used to be a migratory stopover for birds. It's diminished quite a bit since then. The sea actually had quite a bit of tilapia in it, and because of the evaporation, the water is becoming more saline, almost to the point where tilapia actually can't live in it anymore. There's still some in there, but they can't spawn effectively, so the population is actually dropping quite a bit. And as the food source for a lot of birds kind of drops off, there's going to be really no need for them to stop here on migration anymore. Now, a common occurrence is there are annual fish die-offs, because in the summer what happens is the oxygen content in the water drops off, and basically the fish they either starve because there's nothing for them to eat, or they suffocate. And actually, if you look down here, you can see in the sand, that's not sand, it's all fish vertebrae. And it just highlights how much the fish actually die off here, and it's a cycle that will eventually continue until the point that fish can no longer survive in the sea at all. But one of the bigger problems with the sea is over here to the north, that's Coachella Valley, and all the way at the south end of the lake, and you can't see the shore because it's way beyond the horizon, you got Imperial Valley. So this part is actually, it's below 200 feet sea level, and all the agricultural runoff, includes things like nitrates and pesticides, and that all just drains into the lake, and the lake doesn't have an outlet at all. So Not only is it getting more saline because water is just continually draining into it, but it's becoming more polluted over time. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a walk down towards this jetty and let's see what it looks like. The sound of the water sounds nice though. Alright, so here's the jetty area. You can pretty much see that the water actually came up to these rocks. So that's quite a bit of water volume lost. And used to be there was a channel that was going back to over where the campground is. So we have this large structure that looks like it's made out of rebar. Interesting. Biohazard indeed. Drought resistant landscape. Isn't that for sure? It's actually kind of interesting. Over here, the wind really isn't blowing. There's ripples, but there's no waves. It just looks like glass all the way to the horizon. It's kind of trippy. Let's see what VHS tips you got here. Richard Simmons, Sister Act, As Good as It Gets. That console TV brings me back too. Oh, look at that. Abyss. I don't think there are any surf lessons out here. Sorry, guys. Got a pyramid structure out there in the water. And I guess this is the Bombay Beach bus stop. There's this cool looking tesseract metal sculpture. Has to be, it looks like maybe like 30 feet tall. And over there, there's a sea dragon. Really cool. Here we are at the Hugh T. Osborne lookout at the Algodones and Imperial Sand Dunes. The wind was gusting at over 40 miles per hour, so I opted to narrate because the original audio is in terrible condition. The Imperial Sand Dunes are on the south side of Highway 78, and is more commonly known for its popular off-highway vehicle area known as Glamis. The dune field is actually quite extensive. It stretches from the international border to the south by about 10 miles to an island up in the north end of the Imperial Valley. It's actually quite remarkable how only 5 miles to the west is a region with extensive farmland, but here there is only hot desolation. I decided to climb up the first dune peak outside of the parking area, but I didn't want to go too much farther as it was 105 degrees. The sand was quite soft and powdery, which makes walking on it quite difficult. Walking up this part of the dune was difficult while filming. You can see how fast the wind was blowing, but the streams of sand blowing looked really cool. Walking down wasn't too difficult, but I still had to watch my footing as the wind was to my back.
I also kind of like this shot because you can see the sand just being blown across the parking lot surface. Just really shows how fast the wind was blowing.
Alright, so I managed to make it to Palo Verde County Park. It's just on the edge of the river, which you can see over there. And there's really nobody here. This is just pretty much a back road area. It's pretty far away from the interstate, so not really expecting to see anybody. But it's kind of pretty. Oh yeah, it's actually a lot cooler by the water. The nice thing about this park is there's this bunch of trees that's breaking the wind. The other side, like it's pretty windy out there, and on this side there's no problems. That was a nice little day use area. I'm gonna go ahead and walk around a little bit though, see if there's anything interesting or wildlife. Just walking through the trees over there, I can feel hot air coming through. Looks like somebody had maybe like a little fire. This area is pretty secluded, so I would not encourage that though, especially with our drought. Actually, up there, it looks like there's probably a red-tailed hawk floating around. Not sure if that's visible on camera or not. And that's towards the entrance where I came through. It looked like there was a boat launch down over there.
And Palo Verde County Park was the end of the itinerary, so I had a lengthy 2-hour drive home. I'll post my driving hyperlapses in a separate video. There was a large storm in Coachella Valley, which made the drive back interesting. I know this video was rough, but unfortunately when I got home, I discovered that all my clips starting with Bombay Beach had some extensive desync and audio issues. I will have the audio issues resolved in future videos as I'm waiting on a wireless lavalier mic system. Plans for the channel include more exploration videos like this, including abandoned locations, ghost towns, plus other excursion like camping trips. If that sounds great, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.